Okay.
What the hell, man? You said 90s.
I said patrol challenge.
No, you said 90.
I said, are you running a P90? Closed door left. Clear. Breaching. Glass door. Looks clear from this angle. Can I break it?
Break it? You know the city can't afford that. We're millions in debt.
Do you know how dumb I'm gonna look trying to slide open a glass door with a shotgun?
Just slide it open like a normal person.
God, okay, fine. On you.
Door right.
Open door right. Pine. Hands! Show me your hands! Show me your fucking hands! Show me your hands! I'll break your fucking brains out, cocksucker! Show me your fucking hands!
Drop the gun now! They get like this.
Let's go get him, I guess. Show me your hands!
They're too tight! They're too tight! Loosen up! I didn't do anything! Loosen up!
I'm not doing paperwork for this.
Help! Help!
Son, you know why I pulled you over? Because you ran over 9 kids in that school zone, going 110 miles per hour. I'm gonna give you a warning this time. Gentlemen, are you widowy ready or not? Are you ready? Or not? Bro's losing his marbles. I think it is kind of rare, at least to me, when a video game resonates on a deeply personal level. And for me, one of those games is Ready or Not. 10-4, I'm making a YouTube video. Ready or Not has recently seen another spike in popularity. I remember playing it before it came to console, and then after it came to console, not only did it hit a spike in popularity, but it faced a little bit of controversy, and that controversy had to do with the censorship that went into the console release. Now, personally, I am never a fan of censorship, but I can understand it. I can comprehend it, why they did it for console. Maybe they had to jump through these hoops to bring it to console. Do I have to like it? No, but if anything I was thinking about when I thought about this controversy is that the game already is pretty toned down despite the horrors you may see within it. For real life is far more horrific than anything you'll play in a video game. Development started in 2016 with early access hitting in 2021. Overall, I would say it was a hit, except for like one dude on Kotaku, which in the video game world no one respects. He was calling it like propaganda. You're under arrest for a poor take. I will sentence you to 50 years of reading game reviews written by dudes with a testosterone level of a panda bear. Kotaku. Stupidest name I ever heard. And the Kotaku article he brings up, amidst these disorientating tonal shifts which range from juvenile to the openly racist, there are incredibly grim moments like when you come across a child writhing in pain in her pink bedroom. Wounded civilian clear and prep for evac, your SWAT officer says in his RoboCop voice. I read that and I was like, dude, do you guys not understand how the real world works? What are you supposed to do, have like a mental breakdown while you're on like a life or death SWAT raid? By that point in the mission, you probably got into a gunfight or 2 or 3 and you just gotta be like, oh my God. This poor girl, she's what's happening? Are you supposed to like break down, you know? That's, I think, a big misunderstanding. What we'll get to in the video is like the disconnect from normal people to the people that do these kinds of jobs, of like the emotional fortitude it takes. If anything, that RoboCop voice is exactly what is needed in that moment in time, staying cool, calm, and collected under pressure to handle these high intensity situations, because there is also plenty of time after this for you to drown what you've seen in alcohol. So, and funny enough, I think that is the exact mindset you need to adopt to play this game, because it kind of puts you in the shoes of these SWAT operators, where when it comes to the emotional aspect of it, you gotta push all of that aside when you go on these missions so you can think clearly and judge the situation with a clear mind. I mean, sure, you may take an emotional toll, or you also may just become desensitized to the horrific things that you'll be seeing on these calls. Generally, by this point in their careers, if you're talking about these SWAT operators, whether they're seasoned patrol guys and they got on the SWAT team, by now, they would have developed a very dark sense of humor, which is used as a coping mechanism for the terrible things they are seeing. I should have done this sooner in the video, but I want to give a sensitive topic warning because some of these things are going to be kind of heavy. but chances are you're tough dudes. You're hardcore fellas. This dark sense of humor which helps you cope with the horrors, I say that not just to encompass like these law enforcement guys in this fictional video game which kind of takes place in an alternate reality, but also all of the folks that have to see the worst parts of humanity. You know, firefighters, hospital staff, even the cleanup crew, whatever job I don't name, you could think of it and put it in the comment section down below, but these people see oftentimes the most horrific things as part of the job, and it's what you sign up for. Like, the reality of these jobs is that every day it could be the worst day of someone's life, and it's just your regular 9 to 5. Like, you're just clocking in and you're like, oh, what's another horrific day for someone gonna be? And with these horrific jobs, you have to have that clarity of mind to execute them properly. And in the case of Ready or Not, it is the most kinetic version of that in the civilized world, where you need to put those emotions aside so you can think clearly to safely do the job. And damn will the game try and make it not safe. In the game, there is a commander mode where you are playing throughout the entire storyline. It's not linear, but it is interesting in the mechanics of it. You have to manage the mental state of the guys on your team. And what I find interesting about that is that these guys actually tend to get pretty stressed out pretty quick. Now, in preparation for this video, I was actually talking to a lot of guys that I know that are either past or current SWAT guys, some of these guys on major metro teams. And what's funny is that in real life, a lot of times the mindset these guys have is that, like, say after a raid, they're not necessarily like, oh God, I'm just not doing well. It's more so like, hey, what's for breakfast after this? Because these guys get so accustomed to the job.
The neighbors are out.
Neighbors are like, again?
Granted, this is a generalization, not more so a case-by-case basis, because each individual person is different, but as an overall arcing theme with these guys, they develop quite the good mental fortitude. Also granted, I would wager that a lot of these guys aren't taking the same type of calls as they are in Ready or Not, but we'll get to that. Like, if anything, I would say in real life, these type of dudes get almost addicted to the thrill of the job, where everything else becomes boring and all they want to do is go on those high stress calls, because that's probably where they feel most alive. If you've ever tasted any sort of that adrenaline thrill, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like why people still like to jump out of planes and skydive, or go hunting people down because it's a dangerous job, because there's no thrill quite like it. Now, earlier I said the game does resonate with me. That's because before doing this whole YouTube thing, I actually was a member of law enforcement. You get a ticket. You get a ticket. Now, to be fully candid, it was a brief little stint, only 2 years, and I parted ways with my department over a very hot topic medical procedure of the time. Before I parted ways, I was in the process for trying out for SWAT. I will say YouTube is far more stressful than being a police officer, because every day I cry to myself while reading your comments as I down a fifth of whiskey in the shower. Shower is cold.
You don't know me, son!
In the game, there are moments where it does kind of like bring me back to experiences that I had in real life, which is kind of crazy. And granted, this is all like pretty tame stuff compared to maybe experiences other people may have had that video games could bring them back to, which is far more horrific to think about. Simple phrasing as such as like, these cuffs are too tight, kind of like snap me back into moments where I'm like, oh hey, sorry about that, man. You kind of like fix someone's handcuffs that you have arrested.
Get on the ground now!
Show me your hands! Show me your hands! Another weird thing is the aspect of being armed in civilized society, clearing out structures. That one is always such an interesting dynamic and very much a part of police work, where it's like you're the dude armed with a gun now trying to clear out a store. It's like AutoZone got broken into. You're gonna take you and your boys, you're gonna clear it out with your rifles and or handguns, looking for potential people that aren't supposed to be in there. And then if you do encounter those folks, you have like your use of force matrix that kind of brings you back. Now, thankfully, and I can't stress this enough, my stint in law enforcement looked nothing like the Los Suenos cop experience. Real quick, I will say that law enforcement can be a charged topic. I know a lot of you guys have strong feelings. It's like you've ever been pulled over or arrested, you're like, God, I hate the cops. Totally get it. The goal of this is not to take a pro or negative slant against law enforcement. It's more so just to be like, hey, this is kind of the experience and how it resonates with me, and talk about how the game gets things right or wrong. And I think the game does a really good job about that. It pretty much drops you in as a SWAT operator, and you go through these missions and there's no real bias, and you get to decide for yourself how it makes you feel. And that's one thing I do appreciate about the game. Don't trust power blindly. Don't support power blindly. Always be leery of it, because power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. But there is still dynamics where it's like, I do appreciate where law enforcement comes into play. Pretty safe take. The thin blue line, brother. Hey, I'm the sheepdog, and you all are the sheep, and I protect you from the wolves. There you go. There you go. Bro's self-aware. Alrighty. The city of Los Suenos, the city of dreams, for lack of a better terms, is a shithole. There are obviously nice parts of town, but it seems that the everyday man is experiencing the decay of the world that they live in. I do like this because there is some fun social commentary about this, where it's like, as society decays, what are your options as far as how you make money? For instance, in general, when you have times of societal hardships, of economic taking a downturn, crime can increase as people look for ways to make ends meet. I mean, if a man has a family to feed, and there are no honest jobs to be had, how does that man put food on the tables for his family? Personally, I would hope if you have a family to provide for, you would do whatever it takes, and in some instances that could potentially lead to a life of crime. Not ideal, but I get it. A fun thing about this is it could lead to like a life of crime or a life in law enforcement. You're like, well, at least the cops are still getting paid. I could sign up to be a cop. But in this city, I'm looking at like the death toll of police officers. I'm like, dude, this is pretty rough. I don't know how LSPD is still recruiting, unless people just need jobs, man. I think within the time span of the game that you play, I want to say like 9 or 10 cops get schwacked. And that's not to include all the times that you get schwacked on your missions for messing up, or your guys on your team get schwacked. So it's a pretty high death toll for a department to have within that span of time. This kind of leads me to the interesting dynamic of the patrol officer in this game, where oftentimes they are the ones taking the brunt of these killings. Officers taking heavy casualties isn't unrealistic to our reality. There have been times within recent years where officers have sustained a heavy casualty and related to one incident, and a lot of times it is, matter of fact, the patrol guys that are responding to this as the very first ones. Getting into the nitty-gritty of it, I will say an interesting thing about the patrol officers that you see while in the game is that for a city this riddled with crime, there is still this facade of trying to maintain a level of professionalism. Everything in the game about Los Suenos is pretty much trying to mirror like LAPD, and this is kind of a thing with the LAPD where their uniforms, even for patrol, are a little bit more upclass than what you'll see in other places. And a lot of things with law enforcement is that it's not like a standard thing across the board. Different states, different cities, different municipalities all have their own little ways of doing things when it comes to their law enforcement agencies. In the case of Los Suenos, one thing you'll see that stood out to me instantly, and this was as someone that has actually been on patrol before, is their attire. Yeah, here's an interesting example of the beat cops, their uniforms. Looks like a Class B. These guys don't have their ties on like the other guys at the station. Where's your pistol, dude? Did you forget your pistol? It's realistic. Which in law enforcement, you have different classifications of uniform. You have your Class A, which is like you're dressed up looking snazzy ceremonies. You have your Class B, which is like a, more professional, clean look, but still practical. Like here in Arizona, like state troopers, they all kind of dress Class B. It's where you have your armor carrier underneath your work shirt. So that way it's a more clean, everything's pressed, you look sharp. It's a little bit more upscaled, but still practical is the goal. And then you have your Class Cs, which mainly what I myself and a lot of other guys ran, which are a lot more comfier and practical because you get an outer carrier. It's just nicer. Like if you have to sit down and do reports for hours, it's nice to be able to take your carrier off without having to undress yourself.
Paperwork time.
Stuff like that, like little simple details that play a large part into overall quality of life. That was something that really stood out to me, is like going on these missions, like instantly stood out to me on Narcos, was when you load in, you see some patrol cops holding down the door and they're wearing Class Bs. Now, unlike some of the other officers in the station who are wearing what almost looks like Class A's because they have their ties on, which can make sense because that could be your more command staff folks that are always trying to look as good as possible compared to the guys that are out on the road. But your guys on patrol, your Class B guys, they got shotguns, they got their pistol, and they are wearing Class Bs. The shotgun pistol combo, as far as law enforcement goes, is a tale as old as time, right? But given the circumstances of the city, I was kind of expecting to see patrol almost looking like a little quasi SWAT in a way, because on the patrol cars, you have these Mad Max looking cages, which really speak to the level of crime increase in Los Suenos. So that was an interesting detail that I personally took away, where I was like, man, if I was a patrol cop in Los Suenos, I would definitely want some much heavier hitting gear, given the amount of just threat that you're responding to. So just weird observations from my end. Like I was thinking about it, where it's like, I feel like these dudes, these cops in Los Suenos would pretty much have a blank check to work overtime, considering how busy they'd be. Man, fear not, I'm gonna get you out of here.
Ready to go.
Take me somewhere safe.
No way.
I got you, man.
Fucking way.
One core aspect of Ready or Not that really stands out is the shoot, no shoot dynamic, where it really does break the normal conventions of a first-person shooter. In recent years, video games have started to introduce these more dynamic civilians in the game where it's like, don't shoot them. But Ready or Not, it's like the core tenet of the game. Like I think in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, they had like the clean house mission, and in that there were shoot, no shoot targets. But like Call of Duty's not known for that, right? Call of Duty's usually like all-out warfare. Ready or Not, it's a SWAT police shooter. That's like exactly definition of the job, what they have to be trained up to do. And those situations change. Someone can go from a no-shoot target to a you better shoot that guy really quick target in a heartbeat. Now in this game, if you treated it like every other normal first-person shooter you've played, it's pretty much a murder speed run, which you should probably turn your body camera off for. Dark humor. Do you get it, liberal? I will say the overall situations that you find yourself in for these SWAT missions are absolutely insane as far as reality goes compared to what you're experiencing in the game. For instance, I would say like 90% of these missions would not just be national news, but would be like a groundbreaking law enforcement experience that would be talked about for decades to come. Miami-Dade, that was a huge shootout. In terms of Ready or Not, that's like an easy mission. What would be really alarming about this is like all of these things happening in Los Suenos, maybe this huge crime wave, this terrorism, and it's maybe not even breaking the news because it's happening all over the country. So the news cycle is like, boring. Oh, another terrorist attack at a nightclub. Old news, pal. Like in real life, there are shootouts that absolutely rock the world of law enforcement. Off the top of my head, I think of not just Miami-Dade, but North Hollywood shootout, where it's like you have two guys up armored on a little bit of drugs. They got some heavy weaponry and they're taking on over 100 cops and they go on a rampage. Overnight changes how law enforcement does things. And for my conspiracy-minded folks in the crowd, I see you, you are welcome here. That even led people to think conspiratorially of like, a plant to militarize the police even more within America. I think a cool thing about Ready or Not, this is Colton off camera, a cool thing about Ready or Not is like, it could be in theory someone's first day on the job. And like as a SWAT operator even, like say you hire someone and it's like, all right dude, first call, terrorist attack at a nightclub. It's like, fuck! Even within real life and law enforcement, like the North Hollywood shootout could have been a cop's first day on patrol. Now, even before Ready or Not came out to console, I have had experience with the game. I think I started playing it around 2021. I was a little bit late to the party compared to some of you other guys, but I did get my hands on it and I thought it was pretty fun. I think I even got some mods for it and I was playing it with the boys. Kind of close to when I left my police department though, so it kind of felt like, why do I want to play a cop game about being a cop when you're doing cop stuff in real life? So I wasn't that necessarily like invested in it, but then coming back to it now on console with some fresh eyes and playing with new people has been a really fun experience, trying to work through these complex, high stakes problems in a unconventional first person shooter way has been, like, as far as the video game experience goes, relatively rewarding. David 10, copy traffic, en route. It's kind of like funny when I play with my current boys, you know, like my boys David and Cody, who I've been playing video games with for years. I'll end up kind of like taking this quasi leadership role, even though I'm technically not qualified. Don't tell them, it's okay. It'll be our secret. Like I'll be having these moments kind of like almost coaching them from things I've experienced where it's like, oh, you have a suspect that surrendered, but we haven't cleared the threshold that they're currently in, so we're gonna call them back to us and secure them and make them safe, and then we're gonna clear that threshold while someone covers down. And I just love all the aspects to that. I will give David and Cody a shout out because they helped me get the S tier ranking on Carriers of the Vine so I could get that sick Omega C Master. So the watches are actually a really cool component. The Iron Man watch, and this is gonna sound like Pete Copium, I think it's gaudy. This is not my personal flavor of watches. I think for what it resembles, it's cool. And it looks like we got, I swear to God, this is a Sang & Instruments watch, which I have a Sang it on right now. This looks like one of theirs. And then this one was so annoying to unlock, but I really wanted an Omega C Master. Please do not resist. You are being rescued. As I flashbang this chick over and over again with a 40mm Milcore grenade launcher. Ka-thunk-a-boom, ka-thunk-a-boom, ka-thunk-a-boom. Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Put your hands up! just flashbanging them over and over again. What I'm quickly reminded of when I do play Ready or Not is how kind of boring real life tactics in the police world can be. And stuff that I was even trained on as a patrol cop, how to clear structures, is that it is not like this high-speed cool guy close quarter battle where you're running into rooms, covering down, moving all fast, throwing flashbangs, being dynamic. Technically, we'll get to it, but there's a time and place for it. But for a normal patrol experience, it's like hide and seek, slow, clear, safe, methodical clearing of structures where you're trying to essentially hunt down spaces and look for people where a human could relatively fit. Because one thing the game can't really do, unless it upgrades its engine or figures it out, is like these weird little spaces that people can hide in. The game kind of does a good job with like, maybe like when you encounter them, they're like starting to crawl out from underneath the bed. But it's just like all those weird little nooks and crannies that people can hide. And in law enforcement, when you're clearing out a structure, you have to look for all of those spots. And not only do you have to look in those spots, but you're trying to maintain like safe angles in case someone's trying to kill you, because CQB, or clearing structures, is extremely dangerous if there is a motivated person in there armed to the teeth. Now, if that was the case, it wouldn't necessarily become a patrol job, but more a SWAT job. But that's not to say that that situation could arise on patrol, where it's like you think you're doing a structural clearing for something that's not that high stakes, and then oh surprise, there's a guy in there that's ready to rock and roll, armed to the teeth. That's just the chaos simulator of police work. But all that to say that when I do die in Ready or Not and I have to watch my boys try and like tactically clear stuff, I'm reminded like, oh yeah, this is kind of boring to watch in a weird way, because it is so monotonous when it comes to covering down, making sure you're both protected, securing all your angles. And there is a whole like schools of thought, I will say, when it comes to how different police agencies want to go about clearing structures. People may want to go fast and be fast and kinetic, or people want to be maybe slower and safer, or whatever they want to do. There is whole just endless arguments about this, but for the sake of brevity, we're moving on. Now, a big aspect of law enforcement work is not to necessarily kill people. There's a time and place for it, but a big part of it is trying to capture them so they can face their time in the court of law. But killing is very much a part of the job. And what I appreciate about Ready or Not is that it is a part of the game, but it does reward you for not killing them. Ideally, you can try and take them alive. And of course, everyone knows of the S ranks, where if you take everyone in alive and no one dies, you get that coveted S rank. And on some missions, it is far harder than others. But in reality, I will say S rank runs, I think the S stands for suicidal, because if you're going into some of these situations and your entire team only has less lethal, you are going to die. Because some of these guys that you're going up against are armed to the teeth, very motivated, very well trained, and trying to arrest all of them in these situations. And a lot of times you're really just like playing the game mechanics that like this guy just surrenders, even though he is, by use of force matrix, a lot of times these guys are pretty much like greenlit to get schwacked. I think like on all these missions, the suspects already know that the police have a perimeter set up around them, and then that SWAT's eventually coming for them. So they know they're about to get into contact with the police. They know that you are police coming in. Some of these missions may not be the case, but for the most part, like they know the cops are like, they're on the way. So when they encounter you as a SWAT operator and they are still armed, it's like they're pretty much greenlit to be shot. Trying to beanbag a narco sicario that has body armor and a Mark 18 is a really bad idea, and you can only really get away with it in the game. In real life, any smart person with 2 brain cells will be like, yeah, I'm not trying to take that dude alive in this moment. Unless he threw the gun down, then sure, yeah, we can grab him real quick. Insane. And that's another thing about the game, is that you're running these SWAT raids with only 5 SWAT operators at a time. Like, do you realize how insane that is? It is absolutely unbelievable given some of these missions. Like when I was talking to my SWAT buddies about this, I was like, how many guys on a usual stack do you run? And this is like in context of them hitting a house looking for one armed dude that they have a warrant for. Probably bringing 15 guys. You realize you're responding to some of these events with like 5 guys and there are like 15 armed dudes inside of the building? Do you realize how insane this would be for like tier 1 operators to do? He was saying on some of the bigger SWAT calls, they would bring up to 50 guys depending on the structure and what they're doing. This is an aspect of the game, like I get it, there are mechanics, maybe the AI is gonna be too cluttery, it would crash your game, I get it. Maybe the LSPD budget cuts are just that bad, they only bring 5 at a time. Ah, dude. For pretty much any one of these instances, you could expect hundreds of cops to respond to, and there would be dozens of SWAT operators involved in this any given mission. And I wanted to talk about Neon Tomb. This Neon Tomb is a fan favorite, very much a standout, very horrific. 5 guys, let alone 5 local SWAT operators responding to this type of call. We're talking about dudes, religious extremists, armed to the teeth with not just full auto rifles, but belt-fed machine guns. Some of those guys have RPDs in there. If you don't know what an RPD is, it's a belt-fed machine gun that fires a 7.62 x 39 round. It is a very good at what it does kind of gun. Is it the best? No. Thank God they don't have PKMs in there, because you could just pretty much cut the entire building in half. Just an overgeneralization depending on the building materials, but you get the idea. And then on top of that, a lot of those dudes are wearing explosive vests, and they'll clack off if they can get close enough to you. That is an intense mission if you are a Delta Force operator in the Middle East, let alone some nightclub in Los Suenos. Like, the insanity of that. Now, I will say it's cool from a video game perspective to simulate potentially what could be the absolute most horrific call a police officer could ever go on. Because there is this active situation happening, they don't have time to call up Delta Force, they don't have time to call up a Tier 1 unit, because it's currently happening right now, lives are at stake, so you and the SWAT boys are gonna respond and figure it out. I do kind of like that, where it's like, all right, let's roll the dice and see if you boys are up to the occasion. Yet again, responding to a Neon Tomb call with just 5 guys. Really bad idea. As a person that appreciates firearms, I will say that Ready or Not does a very good job at giving you a wide plethora of firearms to play with. I've been finding when I play the game that I keep gravitating towards the Benelli M4. It is a fantastic combat shotgun. I am hoping that they keep on adding more firearms to the game, because I think it's a fun time to try and utilize these things. What's interesting about the game is that all the exotic firearms that you can potentially mess with that in real life just wouldn't be a thing for most SWAT teams. I would say you could have some interesting like reference guns in the arsenal for the SWAT team, you know, maybe stuff they capture on raids. But in reality, most SWAT teams at this point in time in America, 2025, and that's also in the game what year it takes place, most SWAT teams pretty much run like 11.5 AR-15s, which are very practical, and they usually kit them out with red dot, laser, light, suppressor, and that's pretty much it. Now, as far as the video game experience goes, not that exciting, so it is nice to get some more variety in there to run missions with. And they do have some fun setups where you can go old school with your kit and gear and take it back to the 90s, doing some old style SWAT. Pretty much how you saw my buddy Jack dressed out for the intro. I am not kidding you when I say this. You look just like Colin Farrell from SWAT.
Thanks, man. That's what I was going for. And I didn't want to bring it up earlier, but you look just like Samuel L. Jackson.
Dude, he's one of my personal heroes. Thanks, man. You're the best, dude.
Of course, no problem, man.
Of course. I hate him. But when it comes to reality, it's very rare for a SWAT team to be running an AK. I mean, cops have had AKs in America before. I think cops in Alaska use AKs, but yet again, as far as a major metro SWAT team goes, would be relatively unrealistic, but still fun. The shotgun, dude, that shotgun in the game, I was using the Scar 17, which is a 308 battle rifle, and at some of these missions, it felt like I was shooting these guys with airsoft guns. They just weren't going down. But then I bring out the Benelli M4, and I'm taking limbs off. Like, it's funny, even if they're still wearing body armor. So, Benelli M4, maybe a bit goated. One thing that I absolutely love that has come out from this game is watching video gameplay on any social media about people failing to shoot no-shoots. It makes me feel so validated, because when you get into the world of law enforcement, you will face criticism. People will talk about it. You'll see it a lot. You are exposed to it nonstop about shoot versus no-shoot. And of course, police officers can absolutely mess it up and do terrible, terrible things on the job.
I got one running. Sir, drop the knife! Sir, get down! Sir, get down! Sir, get down! Hey! Hey!
Given the circumstances, a lot of times they do a pretty good job at the shoot versus no shoot. Like, I watched one where a dude was on Valley of the Dolls, and one of the chicks is like, "No, I'm not surrendering." And then she quickly pulls out a cell phone, and the dude just point blank with the SR-16, right into like the center mass. It's like, you have failed the no shoot. And it's just quick little things like that. I'm happy it exists, because if anything, if there's any like real world impact, it will make people be like, oh yeah, this is a bit harder than I thought. Like, you're just playing a video game. the stakes are low. You're not gonna get hurt. Like in real life, you may catch a round to the face or go to prison if you mess up. Like still on this topic, making split-second decisions in these high-stakes scenarios are never easy. So if anything, what I do appreciate about Ready or Not is capturing that dynamic where you are in a high-stress situation. The game does a good job at sucking you in and making you feel engrossed in the levels, because you'll be watching down on someone, maybe you glance over somewhere else real quick, and then all of a sudden a person's popping up doing something, like making a fast gesture, so now you have to decipher it's about to be lethal or not. Like I really do love that about the game, because it's such a fun break from the usual first-person shooter experience that I'm used to, where now you just have this whole new dynamic. Now there is definitely a lot that I love about the game, but there's also things that I wish I could see more of in the game. Now some of these would be counterproductive to what the game is actually about. One of which would be a few vanilla Ready or Not missions that are mainly from the perspective of patrol. Now this honestly is kind of counterproductive because it's a SWAT simulator, but in the game itself, in vanilla, you can do a patrol loadout. It's not 100% accurate, but it kind of gets you in the ballpark. If you do complete all the mission, you can unlock the attire for a patrol belt, which is kind of what I'm wearing right now, and then you can equip your guy to have a similar patrol setup. I have a philosophy in this game, and I think when appropriate, you gotta try the patrol challenge. What does a patrol challenge consist of? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You set up a whole patrol kit. I prefer trying to stick to what we can see in the game. On our character judge, we got 2 mags on the LSPD stab vest. You can see a spare rifle mag pouch on the patrol belt, which I earned the hard way. Got 2 pistol mags on the belt, 1 on the gun, and then 1 on the carrier. So it should give you 4 mags total. And then you get a pepper spray and a taser, and that's it. And then for your kit, regular I went with an SR-16, which I feel like for a patrol rifle is pretty Gucci as far as guns go, and then just a regular Glock 19, which weirdly I would prefer to be a either Glock 34 or a Glock 17 if we're gonna be on patrol. A little demerit, a little complaint. Void, get on it. Of course, with the patrol challenge, and I'm very passionate about it because I think it's a really fun way to enjoy the game, it is not an ideal loadout for most of the missions you're going on. Where I really think the patrol challenge stands out, and I think it's the perfect level for it, would be Elephant. Elephant has to be one of the more controversial levels on the game due to the subject material. And really with Elephant, everything I was seeing and researching, I believe it was supposed to be a high school, but that's one of those lines that the devs don't like to cross, is children in harm's way. And from my soul being intact kind of way, I do appreciate that, but from a horrific nature of the job, you know, when it comes back to the game being censored, the game really is already watered down from reality. Now, we'll get to that in a second, but when it comes to the mission of Elephant, community college, active shooter, multiple active shooters. That's to me where a patrol loadout really shines in the game. Because me personally, and I in real life have gotten trained on active shooter response, it really resonates, because if there was anything that would be like the do or die moment where you forego all of these safe tactics, you are just pretty much throwing your life down for an innocent bystander. It's in an active shooter situation like this, especially for patrol. When it comes to an active shooter like that, where people are actively dying, people are hunting down other people, killing them, there is no time to waste. There is no time to stop. You have to get in there and forego a lot of the safe tactics that you have been taught to try and stop that. I mean, normal SWAT call, say you have a barricaded shooter, but it's just them in a building, you technically have a lot of time if there's no one else at risk for you to handle that. When it comes to this, people actively being hunted down and murdered, you got no time. You are running against the clock. And that's one reason I love doing the patrol challenge on Elephant, because in real life, if there's an active shooter, there's no time to call up the SWAT team. You have to get patrol guys in there as fast as possible. Sadly, in real life, we have seen that fail, and it breaks my heart because, you know, I want to take a break and say this is kind of hard to talk about, because when you say this stuff, it could come off as, well, you weren't there, you didn't experience it, what would you have done? And I'm not trying to be some like internet tough guy, but the reality is like mentally, you gotta be prepared to do whatever it takes to save not just the innocent lives of people, but the innocent lives of children. And so when I saw what happened in Uvalde go down, I think anybody looking at that was like, what the hell are we paying you guys for if you don't get in there? And that's one of the big reasons Elephant resonates with me, is like, that's a simulation of what you're gonna be going through. You have to run into that, or potentially, yeah, you could die. You could run, you know, face first into some bad guy's muzzle, but at least it was you and not a child getting hurt. And I could hem and haw and be internet tough guy about this, but that's where the game really brought back a lot of those feelings for me, these intense feelings, and that's what's crazy about it, is how it resonated on such a deep, personal, and visceral level. Because I've been doing YouTube for a while now, and the way the game brought back a lot of these things that I used to think about and experience and heavily talk about has been kind of wild. So if the game has anything going for it, at least it has that, where it can give me, I guess, flashbacks to the last job I had. But really, I think the patrol challenge for Elephant and then the gas station mission, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, pretty much only places where they really shine. You can also try it out anywhere else you want, it's your game, but you're gonna get schwacked and it's not fitting to the overall LARPerism of trying to run those missions as a patrol guy. It's ill-advised. If anything I want in vanilla would be a few patrol missions. I think that would be a fun time. Doesn't really play to the heart of the game, being a SWAT tactical shooter, but I'd appreciate it. Another thing I would like to see would probably be some more gun customization. I would appreciate that if they, in vanilla, opened up the slots. Now, I will say briefly that most of my complaints can be fixed with mods, but if I'm playing on console with the boys and they don't have their freaking PC, then it kind of takes away from the fun of it. I just gotta get new friends. Like, the mods do a really good job of elevating the game. I was watching a bunch of guys go over their mods for it and I was like, oh yeah, this is way better than what's in vanilla. And just more guns too. I mean, if you're already gonna have like these exotic guns in the game, I think just trying to really max out the inventory for all the firearms fans would do a lot of good, like fan service in general. And then of course, not just the guns themselves, but different attachments, barrel lengths, rails, stuff like that could be really an elevation to the game itself. I know Ground Branch does a really good job of gun customization, not just upping the weapon attachment slots, but also giving you more customization of that weapon, different style of rails, kind of like a cosmetic appearance, different style of stocks. Because within firearms world, there is a thing known as cloning, where you want to try and match a look of a gun to a real world use of it. I think that would be a really cool feature in the game for those firearms aficionados. And then of course, just adding more guns to the game overall, I think will elevate the experience. I think it'd be a fun time. Like if they have like a heat package, say you're running the FNC, you're running the Colt 733, even the whole get up like you could be Robert De Niro with the heat chest rig, that'd be sick. Really, with the sunglasses and the beard, I look like I would take a selfie in a truck. Or my wife would take a picture of me and be like, date night with the hubs. How lucky am I? I get the white Oakleys, dude. Soft sissy liberals. Let me see your soft liberal hands. Call me crazy, perhaps this could go against the whole DNA of the game, but maybe a mission where you get to be the criminal. I wouldn't mind that. Run a bank heist with the boys, go full heat shootout in the streets of Los Suenos. Could be a hot take. I am the law. If there's anything the game needs, above all else, that you guys need to get on out there, is a mod where I can be Judge Dredd. I need that more than I need to breathe. Upping the bad guys to the utmost lethal potential, where you have guys that are on the similar ballpark to what you would encounter in your own SWAT team in the game, i.e. guys with night vision, guys with tear gas, guys with all sorts of other gear on them that would just make it a nightmare to try and take them out. I think that would make for a very challenging gameplay. Because now you can't just run around with your night vision on, IR laser beaming. Now you have to be disciplined in all facets of your tactics because those guys have night vision themselves. If you run around with your IR laser on, they're gonna see you from a mile away and take you out. I think another really cool thing could be a sniper mission where you are in a stadium full of people and then a threat arises and you as a sniper have to now take out that threat. There's really, with the game, it probably all boils down to like the engine handling stuff or getting it developed. With these kind of things, it's kind of like real life where it's an infinite chaos simulator that you could go down, and the sky is kind of the limit for what you're getting into. Oh, this is a small one on my list of desires, but I wish for these raids that take place at nighttime, you could completely cut the power off. That would be really nice. Probably make it too easy because now the criminals are just wandering around in the dark. What was that? Until they hear, get down, show me your hands, get down. They're like, oh God, what's happening? Really on a lot of these missions, dude, I think you are way out of your depth as far as skill level goes. And you're not just going in as 5 guys, but you're going in against a bunch of them armed. I mean, dude, just think about the insane power dynamic of them just having more guns. An interesting aspect of the game is they don't work together as well as they would in real life. Like say once you do make contact with them, they all start coming together and forming like a tactical pairs and working together as a unit. It'd be like borderline impossible to take them out. Really, it only makes it possible in the game because they stay so isolated that you can kind of handle them piecemeal, like one by one. But if they were working together, like they probably would, it would be like a nightmare with only 5 guys to try and pull that off. Now on the plot line of the game, I want to give it a lot of props because I think it is a really cool storyline. And I don't plan to go in depth whatsoever because another YouTuber by the name of Wendigoon, Big Gooner that guy, has done a 4-hour plus long video about the lore of Ready or Not, so I think the topic is pretty well covered. That being said, the overall storyline, the vibe is True Detective meets like 13 Hours. Just the crazy cult aesthetic of the investigations and piecing together all these clues that tie into each other, mixed with the high intensity kinetic gunfights. Really interesting vibe because it's really hard to kind of pull those both off in conventional media. In a lot of shows, it's either focusing on the SWAT side of things, where it is these crazy shootouts, or the slow burn detective side of things, putting together all the pieces. It's rare in my mind where you can really combine the two, and I think Ready or Not, I'm gonna give them mad props for that because the storyline is just fascinating and it's really fun, and it doesn't spoon feed it to you. You really have to do your due diligence and digging into all of the details. And I love the game for that aspect alone. Like, I think one of the subplots of the game is that Judge is actually a brainwashed super soldier, which feels like a gross waste of his talent as a SWAT operator when he could be out there being Captain America, I guess, but whatever. Do you want to be a Captain America or a SWAT operator at your local police department? Now, much earlier in the video, I hinted at this censorship stuff where it was a hot, controversial item. My take on it is I don't like the censorship, but I think the game's already watered down from reality, of course. I think most people would see that, and I think most of us would say, thank God, because imagine seeing the horrific things that these guys would actually be seeing on these missions. And to me personally, the most horrifying stuff you would see in law enforcement is when kids are in harm's way. And I'm trying not to talk too much about it just for the sake of YouTube demonetization, YouTube slapping my pee-pee, but really that's the most horrific part about the law enforcement job. To me at least, like, you'll see adults in really bad, banged up situations. You can process that and you can move on. It's when you start seeing children in these situations where it really does start to haunt you. I think that's one reason why Valley of the Dolls is another standout mission. And thank God, to me at least, they watered that down, because I know if it was just gloves off, it would be borderline like a digital scarring experience. So that's kind of like my take on it. Do I like the censorship? No. Do I think the game's already watered down? Yet again, I do. Because if the gloves were off, and I'm sure if there was no rules where they can get away with this, it would just be like a horrifying game, and it's already horrifying as is. I think given their left and right boundaries, they do a good job of filling in your imagination of what you would be seeing. Because it's really cool about these missions is that you experience these emotions when you're on mission. And when you come across like the implications of, say, these exploitation rings, and you kind of put two and two together, it takes so much urge, and yes, it's just pixels, it's a fictional story, but it takes so much discipline to suppress the urge to just absolutely canoe the dude that you just arrested. But sometimes you want to get that A+ or S tier. That being said, you can play these missions over and over again and get numb to it, which I think could be a real life thing. Like if you're a real life first responder, you are going to get numb to these intense calls. You will become very accustomed. It's called stress inoculation. So I just absolutely love the game for all of these reasons. I'm excited to see how the game develops. I think a game like this, with this formula, has unlimited potential. So overall, I will say I'm very happy with my Ready or Not experience. I played Ready or Not before it was cool. Gentlemen, I got nothing else for you. I'll catch you on the flip.
Acorn!
Blow your fucking brains out!